changing what is acceptable and not acceptable and how we use our power. And I think it's a good thing. So let's get started. So fighting has been a source of power for a long time. Violence has been used by empires who have built their empire structures through the use of violent power, and control over various groups has been maintained through violence. We see this all the time. So violence has a strong hold in our psyches and in our story as human beings. Now, violence makes certain actions very expensive. Courage is one. Creativity is another. Standing up for yourself. It means if you do not go along with someone or some expectations, you can be harmed, and it's a kind of coercion, of course. We're always taking stock of the consequences of our actions vis-a-vis the social groups we're in to protect ourselves from those who would use their power in destructive ways. Violence may have made sense in the past, the early days of human life, when there were so many threats, and not just from other humans. So warrior skills became the most important skills we could develop in ourselves. And the problem with warrior skills is that they're not all that we need. There are other skills we need as well. Warriors learn to kill. That's not the skill we need when we need to build something, whether a house or a culture. Now, over thousands of years and a huge number of conflicts, we have arrived at a point where it's become obvious that war alone cannot be the conversation. And boy, it does seem like fighting and war seems to be the dominant conversation going on. Fighting is not enough. We need to be able to work together and build together. Fighting is very fear-based and can be a short-sighted approach to differences, and it can end up causing much more harm than good. Now, if we're going to change what we're doing, it's complicated by all the resentment created over the same thousands of years because of unresolved injustices of many kinds. But injustices are not the only issue we have to deal with. The reality is that different cultures require different skills. In order to survive in a culture, you develop the ones that work in that culture, even if it's oppressive. So the disparity in skills created by different cultures can make bringing people together difficult because everyone's in a different place. It's not necessarily the fault of the people in the individual cultures. I think people just don't have a lot of perspective and awareness about how our differences are created, and that they can actually come from very innocent and benevolent intentions. We adapt to our reality and work with it, which is why we don't expect people in the hottest climates to be alpine skiers. They might be, but we don't expect it. I know it's a silly example, but that's just a way of understanding that every geography, every place has its own demands and requirements for us to be in it. It's also important to note that each culture does have important skills. And our earlier cultures have important understandings of nature, for instance, that we don't have in the industrial world. So we really do need each other. Now, Ayurveda is a really good example. It's a healthcare system developed about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago that is highly skilled at helping us be healthy. I have been using it for many decades, and I have been amazed as well as grateful for its benefits, since I have a genetic predisposition to get blood clots. They have almost killed me a few times. So it's been a lifesaver for me. It's made it possible for me to make sure I don't get blood clots. And it's also made COVID much less scary for me. And I've been very grateful for that. So there are wonderful things like Ayurveda that have come from the past that we can benefit and cherish in the present. There are additional complications created by cultural structures. Hierarchical and authoritarian structures don't necessarily support the education and thriving of their cultures. For thousands of years, authoritarian cultures have invested in control, which is also a fear-based attitude. And if you live in one of those cultures and you don't stand a chance in life to really develop yourself and thrive, that can be a source of resentment, and that's understandable. So if we intend to shift out of war as central and even foundational for human culture, we need a way to do so. The human story has been survival up until now with justification. We could make it thriving, the real healthy thriving of Earth and all living creatures, including us humans. And we can make that our focus instead. So what do? We have injustices to fix and disparities in education and skills, which can be barriers to our ability to share power together. But we also need each other. So there is a lot to fix and a lot to change. We cannot change history, and learning from it is not enough if the lessons being taught are not healthy ones. We do not need more authoritarian lessons. We cannot kid ourselves that we're not all in the same place. No, we aren't. We're all in different places. And so our differences can make connection challenging without there being anything wrong with us. Language, geography, practices, and habits make a very big difference. So we're just starting to work on building cultures of connection rather than empire-based systems. And frankly, we're all groping around in the dark, but at least we have that in common. There's something really important that can help immensely. The latest cultural invention, capitalism, had the purpose of creating material well-being. It has succeeded in doing so. So at this point, we have the skills and the ability to make material well-being a reality. And so its job is really basically done. And that means we have the power to look around the world and decide to make sure that everybody has the basic material infrastructure to survive. And then we can all turn our attention to thriving, less fighting as a result. And in order to do that, though, we have to get over historic injustices and rebalance our relationships with each other and nature. It's a tall order, but I think it's a good problem to have. So this is where a joy practice actually helps us because it's constructive in its focus. By being constructive, caring, and serving the common good, we have the ability to find answers in spite of groping around in the dark. It helps us by eliminating fear, exclusion, and extremes that prevent us from finding common ground and creating well-being together. We need a way to move forward that isn't just adding to the pain and the problems. And a joy practice does that because it's practical and grounded, and it takes us out of ideologies that divide and hurt us. It's not punitive. We need to get our feet back on the ground. We need to connect with reality and find solutions to major problems, including climate and environmental emergencies. And in doing so, we can reduce the amount of emergencies that claim so much of our attention. So it's important to understand that connection power is different from warrior power. And a lot of people in the warrior place don't want us connecting because basically they're kind of out of business when we discover that we can be friends. Constructive power, the power of building together, is different from climbing some ladder. Generous power is different from withholding power. Supportive and creative power is much more valuable than punitive power. I like how many people are working on this new version of human power that is kinder, generous, more practical, and grounded. Frankly, it's a huge relief that's long overdue and very much earned by the hardworking people who got us this far. So I want to close by reading a wonderful poem by David White. It's called Your Simple Wish. So that one day you realize that what you had wanted had actually already happened, and long ago, and in the dwelling place in which you lived before you began. And that every step along the way, you would carry the heart and the mind and the promise that first set you off and then drew you on, and that you were more marvelous in your simple wish to find a way than the gilded roofs of any destination you could reach. It's an excerpt from Santiago, from Pilgrim, book of poems that he created. That's by David White. So embrace your simple wish. It's a wonderful thing to do, and it's worth a lot. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed learning more about how joy can transform your life. If you found the video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and loved ones. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos on the transformative power of joy. I'll be back soon to give you more information about how joy as a practice and compass can transform your life. Stay well and joyful until then, and thank you for watching.